board will now reconvene in open session. The time is 6:01. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. At this time, we would respectfully ask you to turn off the sound of your cell phones. May I remind anyone wishing to address the board that they must have completed a public comment card before the start of the public portion of tonight's meeting, indicating the agenda item or topic about which they wish to speak. As your Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals for the district and listen to reports presented by the superintendent and his designees. Approve and review the budget, approve certain personnel appointments and contracts, and make policy for the district. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. It is the board's responsibility to govern the affairs of the district and ensures that the district is moving in the right direction, meeting the vision and the goals that are set on an annual basis. Meeting times for board meetings are posted on the AISD website at www.abileneisd.org. The public is invited to attend. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Gustavo Villanueva, Associate Superintendent for Student Services, to lead our invocation and pledges. Thank you, Dr. Villanueva.
Gracious and loving God, as we gather here tonight, we seek your presence among us. Grant us wisdom to make decisions that reflect fairness, compassion, and what is in the best interest of our students and their families. Help us to approach every discussion with humility, respect, and a shared commitment to the success and well-being of our schools and our students. May our actions honor the trust placed in us, and may the outcomes of this meeting bring hope, opportunity, and growth to our community. We ask for your guidance and your strength. In Jesus' name, amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated.
We'll now move to item 3C. Board Superintendent announcements. Dr. Kuhn, do you have any announcements for us?
I do. I have just a couple. First of all, happy Board Appreciation Month to the school board here. Also want to remind everyone that Monday of next week is a school holiday. Thursday through Saturday, in case you don't know, is the county stock show. We do have Abilene ISD students that are showing their animals. So if you get a chance to go to that, you'd be invited to do that. Friday, board is High Five Friday at Long Elementary. You're all invited to come that morning and give high five to kids as they show up. And then Saturday, January 25th, is an annual event that's called the Planning for College and Career Seminar that is held at McMurray University to help local students kind of plan their path forward into careers or college. And then also, quick reminder, January 30th, we have a special called board meeting. Thank you.
So High Five at Long Elementary isn't very high.
It would be low five at Long Elementary. That's a good point.
That is true. I do have an announcement if anyone else also after me. At our board seat, we have a magazine, Abilene Community Guide and Directory 2025. Our very ambitious communications team has done a great job in making sure Abilene ISD was well represented on right in the very middle of the book. If you have an opportunity to get one of these, and I wanted to point out to our board, it's marked for us. We have I think we have like 2 or 3 pages where we're featured in this. So when it comes to education, we're the very first group that is listed. So thank you, Dr. Zemer and your team. We really appreciate what you do to be sure we are recognized in our community as a wonderful option for education. Wanted to point that out. At this time, we will have our regular feature called the Teaching Minute, which highlights teaching and learning across the district. So take a look at the monitor.
Carbon tetrafluoride. My name is Seth Ahlstrom. I teach honors chemistry at So in the lab, analyze the properties of ionic, covalent, and metallic substances in terms of intermolecular and intramolecular forces. So we start every single class with a review of things that we've had in the past, and it might be the day before, it might be weeks before. Intermolecular forces was the goal of our lab today, and so we covered things that they have never actually seen before in our bell ringer, where they're having to draw on past knowledge to apply it to the future. So when we use our Pauling scale to determine if it's polar or nonpolar, what are we actually comparing between? Okay. Can you elaborate a little further? They were given 5 different unknown solutions, and through a tension test where they were putting drops on pennies, or an evaporation test where they were seeing how fast each of the solutions dissolved, they were trying to determine the strength of each of those different solutions. After collecting that data, they then get to look at extra information I provided for them so that they can try and figure out not only which one of those solutions is the strongest, but also see if they can determine the actual solution that each of those things was. So talk in your table group, see if you can determine of these 5 what is polar as a whole molecule and what is nonpolar as a whole molecule. What we do in here a lot is inquiry-based learning. The students are given an activity, the students are given a lab where they have very little background information on what the actual purpose of it is. But through the process of doing it, they start to piece together some of the big key aspects of what we're trying to accomplish. It's all about seeing if the students can embrace the learning themselves, if they can problem solve, because that's what science is really about. It's not the memorizing, it's the doing things, it's the learning things.
Great, thank you very much. That's going on in every classroom on all of our campuses. Thank you for letting us see that. We'll now move on to item 4, recognitions. Dr. Jordan Seymour, Director of Communications, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, good evening, Madam President, Dr. Kuhn, members of the board. Well, Dr. Kuhn beat me to it this year. Let me be the second to wish you a happy School Board Recognition Month. This year's theme, as you can see here, is Leadership for Tomorrow's Texas, and I think that is so appropriate for this board and the actions you've taken to guide this district into the next phase of its life to do better things for our students and families. So I love that. Thank you for your vision for AISD and wanting us to be a tomorrow district that's focused on student futures. In addition to tonight's recognition, we'll also be celebrating you on social media. I know all of you are avid social media users, and you may see that we're quizzing our community to see which of your favorite things they know are your favorite. So that's also a plug to say, be careful about what you tell us you like, because we're going to ask them if they know, and so you may not want them to know your favorite gummy bear flavor. I don't know, right? But my team back there is helping our community get to know you as well through some fun social media recognition, so keep an eye out for that. Tonight, as always, I have campuses here to help us say thank you very quickly for all you do for our students. So I want to turn it over to them so we can proceed quickly. But again, thank you on behalf of all of us here at Abilene ISD. We love you, we appreciate you, and all of your support for us. So first, we're going to recognize our president, Mrs. Angie Wiley, and here to help me recognize her is our Adams principal, Mr. Jay Ashby.
Hi, good evening, board, Madam President. Thank you so much. We had the privilege of honoring you, Mrs. Wiley, but we spread the love, and everyone has some handmade coasters that were made by our carpentry students. They are a short story. Mr. Harmel, our carpentry teacher, got a tip that there was a church that had was replacing their pews, and they had some old great pews for him to come and pick up. So he drove to Lubbock, showed up, and it fell through. Something happened, but he got a tip of another place that wasn't even on Google Maps, and so he headed north, and he told me he basically drove to the top of Texas to pick up some other pews, and he scored. And so those are some really high quality oak from some pews somewhere in the Panhandle, and they've turned them into a lot of cool things, including those coasters. Just a small token of our appreciation at the Lift and Adams for all that y'all do. So thank you so much.
All right, next, we're going to recognize Mr. Rodney Goodman, our board vice president. Here to help me recognize him is Alcorta Elementary and Principal Michelle Jocelyn.
Good evening. How are you all doing? So at Alcorta, before Christmas, we took the one-word challenge and kind of changed it up a little bit. So we asked our faculty to fill out a Google form where they left one inspiring word to describe one another. What they didn't know is that we were going to take this word and turn it into a piece of artwork for them to have for the rest of the year. So we took that idea a little further for Mr. Goodman, and we had all of our classrooms learn about what a school board member does and a little bit of background information about Mr. Goodman. So each classroom came up with one word that they would use to describe Mr. Goodman. So we are presenting you with a basket of goodies, but most importantly, we're presenting you with a reminder of how thankful we are to have such a supportive school board member and a school board collectively. So this was our launch for capturing kids' hearts. So we often forget to celebrate ourselves and each other. When you are about to let a hard day win, look at this heart and remind yourself of the value that you add to any group that you are a part of. We want to thank all of you for everything that you do, and especially for having a heart for education. You all are the reason we are able to capture kids' hearts.
Okay, next, Mrs. Cindy Earls, our secretary, is going to be recognized by Stafford Elementary and Principal Melissa Scott.
Hello. Thank you so much for everything you do. We know that you have served on our school board for about 10 years now, and we appreciate all of the time. We know sometimes it's a thankless job and it does not pay well, but we appreciate all that you do. And it means so much to our teachers that anytime we ask you to come visit our school or come volunteer, you are the first one to say that you will be there, and they appreciate that. And just as their principal, I appreciate that they feel comfortable reaching out to you and individually asking you to show up for them. And so just thank you so much for all that you do and all of you guys. And there's some different gifts in here and a frame picture of the last time you came and read to one of our classes. So thank you so much.
Sorry, Betty. I know. Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to recognize Mr. Abilene Enriquez, our Assistant Secretary, and he is going to be recognized by Dias Elementary and Principal Heath Wright.
All right, so as the others were saying, I'm excited to say thank you to all of you in the time you put in. Now, Mr. Enriquez, I'm excited to have been Dias to have gotten you this year, because I remember 12 years ago sitting in a meeting before you even on a school board and talking about ways to help kids in education. You have been about the kids from the very beginning. And nice part is, gift-wise, I did have get a base coin for you from our liaison, and our kids did thank you letters. But I also, since I did work with your wife at MAN, where you also went to school, because I know you're a product of what you're helping guide now. Just some special gifts that are more connected to things that she said you like, not just what was on a form. So, thank you.
You bookmark that. Mr. Wright has the inside info on Mr. Enriquez. That's what I just learned. That's good to know. All right, next, Dr. Danny Wheat is going to be recognized by Madison Middle School, and Principal Josh Newton's here.
Good evening. Like all the others said, I just want to echo their thanks. It's an honor to stand here and represent Madison Middle School, to tell you all thank you. Dr. Weed, it's an honor to have the opportunity to show our appreciation. At Madison, we have guidelines for success that we've started through Safe and Civil Schools. For us, the ones that our kids have chosen are kindness, respect, and determination. And so we just had different groups around the campus, our kitchen staff, our janitors, our teachers, more importantly, our students, fill out some thank you cards for you, just highlighting those different guidelines for success. I think they're also very representative of what you do for our school, all of our kids. So we just want to say thank you. We even had our principals of manufacturing class, major pencil holder, a couple other thank you notes. And so we just, I know it's not enough, but thank you for all you do. Everybody, thank you for what you do, Dr. Wheat. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Okay, next, Mr. Blair Schrader, our trustee, will be honored by Taylor Elementary. Not that I'm biased, but, you know, we have a connection here to the best school in all of the land. But here with me is Principal Leslie Roberts.
Good evening. I am honored to have 3 Taylor 5th graders with me tonight who are also on our student leadership team, Philip Carnero, Hillary Harmon, and Aslan Schrader, and they're going to show appreciation to you.
Mr. Schrader, as our school was thinking of ways to recognize you tonight, we thought about the different ways students are recognized at Taylor. At the beginning of the year, each student received a brag tag ring and a brag tag for our school-wide theme, Reach the Stars. Throughout the year, brag tags are given to students for different recognitions like Beat the Bell, UIL, and student leadership. This evening, we have a brag tag ring to present to you with some of the same brag tags that we receive as students and some custom-made brag tags.
Each class at Taylor Elementary was asked to create a custom brag tag to show appreciation to you for your service on the school board. Before making a brag tag, each class spent some time learning about what you do as a school board member. We appreciate the time you spend attending school board meetings to make decisions to allow all of us to learn in the very best environment with the best staff and materials. We heard sometimes the meetings can get a little long, or that you spend time reading over notes to prepare for the meetings. We have a basket of some of your favorite snacks for those long meetings or while you are doing your school board homework.
We appreciate your willingness to listen to the community, parents, school staff, and students. As you set goals for Abilene ISD, thank you for visiting our school and attending school evidence to see the great work we do. We hope the brag tags serve as a reminder that you are appreciated for your service to the students of Abilene ISD.
I'm coming to y'all.
Man, I'm jealous. I want brag tags. That's awesome.
I think I'm going to be having some of these snacks tonight.
Oh, exactly. They knew what was coming. That's awesome. Awesome gifts from everybody so far. Okay, and next, Dr. Taylor Tidmore is going to be honored by Ward Elementary. And I know the Wildcats are here. Mr. Blake Fuller is on his way.
Hello, School Board. I'm Blake Fuller. I'm the principal at Alley Ward Elementary. This is my instructional coordinator, Allison Smith, and we are here on behalf of our campus. And our campus, we put together a whole bunch of Wildcat gear for Dr. Tidmore and some handmade gifts and cards from the kiddos. And just a quick little story, when I went into kindergarten art and I said, we're going to learn about a school board, the first thing they said was, is it like a bulletin board? And I said, kinda. They're full of great information and they take care of us just like our bulletin boards. And then when we put your picture on the screen, one kid said, I think he looked in my ears once. And I said, maybe. But so we're going to tell him thank you. You've got some pretty neat cards in there that they wrote, and we filled it full of treats for you. So thank you.
If you're here tonight, if you'll join me in one more round of applause for our students, schools, and principals. Thank you for helping us recognize our board. That concludes our recognitions for each of you this evening. I hope they were special for you, and we're excited that each of you is walking away with some super cool, unique stuff from our schools and students. Thank you again, as always, for giving us a few minutes to pause and express our gratitude for all you do. We are blessed to have a board that wants to lead us into the future. So thank you for all you do, and again, happy School Board Recognition Month.
Thank you very much. Likewise, it's a distinct honor to serve this community, and so thank you all very much. We are going to move on. It's going to be hard, but we probably want to sit and enjoy some snacks. Go ahead and open your snacks if you want. We'll now move on to item 5, oral communication from the public. The board encourages comments about the district from members of the public. Anyone wishing to address the board must have completed a public comment card before the start of the public portion of tonight's meeting. It should have indicated the agenda item or topic about which they wish to speak. Oral communication from the public is governed by AISD policy BED local. Under the Texas Open Meeting Act, the board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for the meeting. A speaker will be given up to 5 minutes to address the board. If, however, the total number of speakers seeking to address the board at a meeting exceeds 5, the per speaker time limit might be reduced. In no event will a speaker be given less than a minute to address the board. Tonight we just have one speaker, so we will not be adjusting the time limit. Dr. Kuhn, will you monitor the time and let us know how that is going to be done, and so the speaker will know what to expect?
Yes, I have a timer here in front of me, and when I press go, it will start counting down from 5 minutes. There is a monitor on the podium that will show the speaker their time as it ticks down, and once we get to 0 on the timer, I will ask the speaker to stop at that time.
Great. We have one public comment card from C. Alvidrez. Are you here? There she is. Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome.
Good evening. Would you like to say something before I begin, Jayden?
Hi.
Okay.
Hello there. Welcome.
I haven't been to one of these in a long time, so I learned something called a sandwich whenever you go to these kind of things. I won't say the first part of it, but I do want to commend you guys for everything that you do for the district. And I also want to give a shout out to Deborah Stewart over at Craig Middle School. We have been able to work together. We had a rough start when my kids first started there. Since then, we've been able to overcome a couple of issues there that have presented themselves over the years. So they're really good to my kids over there. So I do want to thank them as well publicly. Unfortunately, I have to bring these particular issues up, and I hate to have to bring them up, but I'm having multiple parents reach out to me who have children with disabilities who aren't getting the services that they need per state, federal laws, and also per your policies and procedures. So that's why I'm up here tonight. I don't necessarily have the issue, but again, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with who I am or what I've done in the community here, but I am an advocate, and so people do reach out to me with their concerns for whatever reasons that they feel like they need to reach out to me and not to you guys. So I'm up here basically on their behalf. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with federal law or state law or even your policies and procedures, because some people aren't. But I do want to let you guys know what federal law states regarding individuals with disabilities. Before I do that, I'll let you know some of the issues that are being brought to my attention. One particular issue was a student who was told that they weren't going to be able to graduate. The student is confined to a wheelchair and wasn't really expected to live past the age of 8, and will be graduating this year, and was told that they wouldn't be able to go across the stage. Why that was, I don't know. I did speak with a parent. I believe that issue has been addressed, but I feel like I need to address it publicly. One, to let the public know, and two, to let you guys know that's happening, that those things are being mentioned to parents who have children with disabilities. Those kids work just as hard as any other kids. They deserve the right to walk across the stage, and there is state law that protects their ability to be able to do that as federal law as well. So in saying that, I do want to read over a few of the laws that I had up here, and now that I can't find them. What U.S. federal legislation protects the rights of students with disabilities? The civil rights of people with disabilities were not specifically addressed in federal legislation until 1973 with the passing of the Rehabilitation Act. Section 504 of the Act mandates non-discrimination for people with disabilities in educational and other programs that are recipients of federal funds, which is what we do receive those. The Americans with Disability Act, along with its 2008 amendments, include protections against discrimination for individuals with disabilities in public programs, even those that do not receive federal financial support. The rights of students with disabilities in K through 12 and post-secondary schools are protected by Section 504 and the ADA. All that to say this, the fact that that was even mentioned to a parent that the student could not graduate with his peers is a form of discrimination. The Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975 guarantees a free and appropriate public education, also known as FAPE, for every child with a disability in the United States. This landmark piece of legislation changed the way that students with disabilities experience education, mandating that disabilities be better identified and treated and that families of children with disabilities be able to exercise their right to due process. Financial incentives were made available to educational entities that comply with federal disability laws. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA, was passed in 1990. IDEA articulates the rights of students with disabilities and the services that must be provided to them in elementary and secondary schools. Another thing that I want to bring up to your attention is the IEPs are not being followed. The individualized educational plans are not being followed by the schools. Parents are coming up here to your administration, they're being blown off, and they're having issues with that. And it's causing children with disabilities to regress. So I did want to bring that up to you guys' attention. I'm hoping that the parents come up and eventually advocate on their behalf and on their children's behalf, because that's really what is needed. But I do want to appreciate, or let you guys know that we do appreciate what you do, and I do want to let you know what is going on, not only in your schools, but also up here at admin, that we do have children and parents who have disabilities that are being discriminated against, whether the individuals who are discriminating against them know that they're doing that or not. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Oldridge. We'll now move on to item 6A, public hearing on the 2023-24 Texas Academic Performance Report. I believe that's Ms. Patty Blue, Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Could you please just give us a brief summary on our curriculum, on the 2023 TAPER report? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. This report is full of information. It's about a 33-page report if you actually look at the whole thing. The purpose of the Texas Academic Performance Report, which we call a TAPER, it pulls together a wide range of information. It disaggregates student groups, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. This is released yearly, and it is released for every school district in the state of Texas being public.
Ms. Blue, I need to open a public hearing. Okay. So we do need to open a public hearing, and I should do that, and note that the time is 6:29, and now you can finish your talking.
Okay. So, as I said, the TAPER report is released publicly. It is available on TEA's website. This report, the most current one, is for the 23-24 school year. This is the web address. I will tell you that most of the time I just do a TEA, TAPR, Google, and there it takes me, so I don't have to remember this whole address. If you look over on the far left-hand side, you have the option that you can pick campus reports, district reports, region reports, state, or there's a glossary of terms. But any school district in the state of Texas, this is available for anyone in the state to go and pull. Once you get there, this is where you would get the option, and you would just put with the district in the bottom there of what you're wanting to look at. So if you wanted to look at anyone in this area, in Region 14, or any other parts of the state, you could have access to that. The first part of that report deals with STAR performance. You notice on this sample page, there's third grade reading, third grade math, fourth grade reading, fourth grade math. It gives you information about approaches, meets, and masters, and it gives you a 2-year comparison. And then across the top, it has broken everything down by state, region, district, and then the different ethnicities as well as special ed populations, economically disadvantaged, and our emergent bilinguals. If we were going to look at just approaches, there are 20 areas that are looked at. You can see there it's the grade levels and the different content areas. Brief summary of those for AISD. In those 20 areas, 65% of those areas last year we saw a decrease. So the performance dropped in 65% of those looking at the approaches area. In all 20 of those areas, when you compare us to the state performance for approaches, we are below the state. Another piece of the TAPER report is they look at progress. So basically, did the student grow from year to year? There are 16 measures. 8 of those are ELA reading, 7 are math. One of them actually deals with both, how many students grow in both math and reading areas. If we compare 23-24 to 22-23, in English language arts, we had 6 areas of growth. More of our students grew a year. We had 2 areas that we actually declined. Less of our students grew a year. In math, we had 1 area that we maintained. So year to year, our same percentage of students grew. But we had 6 areas of math that we had fewer kids grow a year between 22-23 and 23-24. The TAPER also will disaggregate things by bilingual. So if you look at this is going to compare our bilingual scores to those of the state and the region. It also breaks it down based on how those bilingual services are being given to those kids. It also looks at participation. That's one of the things that we get judged on. And in AISD, 99% of our kids actually do take some sort of test, which is a good thing for us. The TAPER report is also talks about attendance, graduation, and dropout rates. For AISD, our attendance rates from 21-22 to 22-23, which this report is a year behind. Everything has to be officially complete, and that really can't happen in time for like 23-24's data to be complete before this report. So if you compare the past 2 years that we've looked at, we actually had an increase from a 91.3 to a 92.8. The good news is at the end of the first semester, we were at 94 this year. And so we're hoping to keep encouraging and keep that trend up, because kids being in school means they're going to have the opportunity to learn more. So we want them here. If you look at graduation rates, the class of 2023, 95.2% of them actually graduated in 4 years. TEA also looks, though, at 5-year and 6-year graduation rates. So the class of 2022, 5 years, so a year after they should have graduated, they were at 95.5%. That 94.6 means that 94.6 did graduate in 4 years. So we increased from 94.6 to 95.2 at a 4-year graduation. And then they also do look at 6-year graduation. And the class of 21, we had 95.4% of our kids had graduated in 6 years from the class of 21. Our dropout rates, they stayed steady for grades 7 and 8. In grades 9 through 12, we had a little bit of a slight increase, but not a significant increase. College, career, military readiness. I'm going to talk a little bit about this here, but we're also going to go into a little more detail about CCMR in another portion of the meeting. If you look, our annual graduates in 22-23, we were at 53.7% met CCMR requirement. The year prior to that, we were at 44.4. I also put the state numbers in here so you can see that we are trailing the state in CCMR, which is something that we are actively working on. It is a board goal that we're going to discuss the progress measure a little bit later. Another piece that you can find in the TAPER report is comparison of just student information. If you look at the sample, you see how they've compared us at each of the grade levels. How many kids do we have? What percent of our enrollment? What does that look like compared to the state? They look at the ethnic distributions, they look at genders, they look at the economically disadvantaged, the special ed numbers. Here are all the different areas that you can compare on a TAPER report. And it compares the district to the state. Again, this is the same information you could find for any district in the state of Texas. And then they also have staff information. So they go in and they look at total staff members. How are those staff members broken down? Are they teachers? Are they administrators? Are they aides? Library counselors? What's the ethnicity? What's the gender? What degrees do our teachers hold? Experience, salaries, what programs are they in? How many teachers for bilingual do we have? How many teachers for SPED do we have? But again, that information's there, that we compare ourselves to the state, and we can compare ourselves to other districts, either in the area or across the state that are like us. So that is super, super quick, but that 33-page report, we could spend the rest of like literally the whole night talking in detail about that report. If you really would like to dig into it some more, I would love for you to call me and come by, and we will dig into it as deep as you would like to dig into it and compare. If there's some districts that you would like to see their report as well, I would be happy to pull that for you so you could do that comparison and look at how some other districts are doing. Here's the website again that you could go there, or like I said, if you just Google TEA, TAPR, it'll get you there too. So, questions?
Thank you for your work digging in on this, and I just want to communicate that I can speak for myself, that obviously we know that there is a lot of hard work that goes on in the classrooms, and y'all need a lot of tools to be able to get us there. I think the meeting in December, from a curriculum standpoint, we took a positive step in the right direction in that regard, but know that I don't think any of us are content with the data that we're seeing. And I think it's safe to say that nobody's more unsatisfied than the teachers and the administrators. And so to that end, I want folks to know that we have goals, we are tracking them, we're being data heavy, because we can't just hope for something better and show up every day. We have to make a plan to get us there. And that's one of the things that I'm very satisfied as a new school board member to see the work that's going in with this administration to try to change that tide. There's not a silver bullet. It's going to take time, but we are deliberately taking action. And so if you're watching this, if you're at home, if you're looking this up and you're digging into all these other districts, know that we're looking at it as well, and that we are leaning in heavy, because Abilene kids deserve our best, and we have to track to make sure that they're well postured to be able to enter the workforce. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
That is a lot of information, and it was quick. But know that we have access to this information. We know about it. We've been presented to this in workshops. It's not new to us. We've been presented with this before now, and we knew, we know this. And we are not seeing anything improve, so we are trying new things, and that's what our job is now. Let's try something different. Let's try something new.
You know, to y'all's point, I will say that that's why to be honest, I didn't dig too terribly much, because I think this is showing data that you guys have been looking at ever since I joined the team in August. I think that the board's been very, very focused on data, and there is nothing in here really that I'm going to show you that we haven't already had discussions about. And so that's one of the reasons I felt like that we would hit the highlights. If you do have more questions, like I said, I would be more than happy to sit down and we'll go through all 33 pages in detail. And that offer is there for the public as well, is if the public would like to come and have conversations and dig into this, then I would be happy to spend the time to do that. It just, like I said, it could take a lot of time, the rest of the evening, to really dig in and see what's here. But again, we've looked at a lot of this data. This is not going to show us anything that you guys have not already been made familiar with. So,
speaking of, does anyone from the public have anything they would like to address the board with regarding this 23-24 Texas Academic Performance Report? While Ms. Blue is here to help us answer questions. There being none, then the public hearing on The 23-24 Texas Academic Performance Report is closed. The time is 6:40. We'll now move to item 7, the consent agenda. The AISD Board of Trustees meetings are preceded by an in-depth board workshop. Board workshops are held prior to regular meetings, and the purpose of the workshop meeting is for the board to discuss items in preparation for potential consideration at future board meetings. Meeting times for board meetings are posted on the AISD website at abileneisd.org. The public is invited to attend. Does a board member wish to remove an item for discussion from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion regarding the agenda items on the consent agenda?
So moved to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Wheat. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. We'll now take a roll call vote. Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes, Bill Enriquez.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. At this time, we're going to move on to item 8, reports. The first report is AEF Annual Report, and I would like to call on Adam Samuels, our Executive Director of Abilene Education Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Wiley and the board. I come bearing what I think are good tidings. We presented or have submitted for you our official audited financial statements for the 23-24 school year. So I'm going to talk about some things that are really in the past and skip over some that are recent past, but we'll celebrate those next time. So in the slide deck that we've got, just a few things. First, we are trying out a new look. We used opportunity to apply for a grant with the Community Foundation and then partnered with Morris & Mitchell at ACU and have developed a new brand kit. So just to see that we're moving away from the blue gradient star into what we're calling the people circle, or it's some of us call them the snowflake. But it's representing our different program areas for the district. It's purposeful in those color choices. The green are our programs related to students, and blue for those for teachers, and then orange we'll use that for current district-wide programs. A year ago, at the end of my time, you guys asked a couple questions and what did I have to look forward to, what would be next. And one thing I said was I wanted us to expand beyond the things that we were doing. So we don't have anything in this report now, but I think in a next year or two, we'll be sharing new areas in the orange color. And we're thankful for the increased partnership with the district to get us there. So as of July 31st, 2024, we had cash and equivalents of about $534,000. The contributions receivable, $265,000, and then our beneficial interest, that's our community foundation endowments of $883,000, so that puts us total assets at $1.6 million. You'll see in our net assets, we've got just a small $30,000 in liabilities. Without donor restrictions, $101,000. So predominantly, our funds are held with donor restrictions. Most of that in endowments, obviously, and another significant portion that's separate. That contributions receivable, that is a note, the last page of the audit, if you've read through the things that are submitted. We are adding an adjusting entry into our books, and we are accounting for the pledge or the promise from the local foundations. Our cool team serves at each high school. We receive money from the Shelton Foundation and Dry and Grape Owen Foundation. They do that in 3-year increments with us, and that's a legal agreement. So our auditors have advised that we should receive that money in the books as a receivable, not just the cash as it comes in our accrual system. So then adding that up, we have 3 other endowments that we are primarily the only beneficiary for with the Community Foundation, the JJM Fund, the Carlson Fund for gift grants, and then the newest one that we celebrated with the Community Foundation's annual lunch this year was the Gifford Estate Endowment that's now a new fund. Those 3 are not owned by AEF, but all of these are invested at the Community Foundation. They are beneficial interests held by others, and that board retains variance power for our own assets, including these 3. So that's why when you look at that in total, everything that we have held at AEF for us by the foundation is $1.5 million. Total in is 2.4, so that expanded financial position puts us 3.2. So just a quick highlight through some of these. In the Cool Team, our total expense was $301,000. The district direct grants was $237,000, where we're paying the district each month for salaries. We had a new program this year that was funded anonymously local to reach specifically to the 8th grade classes. We did that at each middle school. That was in 23-24, so this is year 2. Right now, we anticipate that program expanding to be offered to every 8th grader beginning at 25-26 year. So they do kind of an in-depth, on-purpose leadership and recruitment, and they're purposely reaching to the students and thinking what's next and what's in the future. Our Cool Team also advises kids to how to get more financial aid for college. And so our big number is the total award for the class of 24 was $16.2 million in scholarship offers and awards. That's not Pell Grant, that's not student loans, that's direct cash from institutions. And we're really excited for the opportunity and the future making that that gives for students. So moving just specifically to scholarships, we made 32 awards, and that was a $66,000 commitment. Our total expense is $42,000 in that school year because award and claim are different. We also have a conditional liability of $108,000 on our books. These are unclaimed scholarship awards. So I want you to know when Ms. Blue talks to you about trying to get kids to and through college, we have money available. Some of them have been awarded, and we struggle to have a 100% claim rate. That's my ideal goal. That's what I want, but it never happens. So I want you to know that we are very invested in getting more students to receive the money that they have been awarded. And that's a partnership that I think we can expand with the district. Young Masters is our art program. It was 10 awards this year for $7,500. Total expenses in the program are $31,000. You see direct grants right now, $5,400. We have not yet written every award that could be claimed. Classroom grants for STAR grants in 23-24 was an increased amount per project for $1,500. That was a total grant to the district of $85,000 among our traditional STAR grants and also the Marianne Polnick 21st Century Learning grants. Another large grant program for teachers is the gift grants for the new to profession teachers. That was about $13,000 in that year, so that puts us for classroom grants, including Pastor Success, total expense of $115,000, and then nearly $92,000 in direct grants to Abilene ISD teachers. Teachers in the Limelight Celebration is our opportunity to celebrate excellence going on in every campus, like the Teaching Minute video we saw this earlier in the meeting. Specific to this program, $51,000 in expenses, but our awards are about $20,400, and that's part of the celebration. We'll keep that same template and format for TLC this year when we move to the celebrations this spring. Our assistance grants for students experiencing homeless, that was around $43,000 in direct grants this year for the district and for those students. And then one program that we do just for fun is the movie night. This is actually for the 24-25 year. This is the Grinch that we did at the Paramount on December 4th. This is my brag. This is one of those ones in bold and red. 761 was our attendance this year. We'd been hovering in the 400s, and I said to all of our staff, our board, I want at least 500. And the volunteer from the Paramount who was clicking, each person entered, smiled at me when she went over 500, and that was 30 minutes till we started the movie. So that puts our total investment for the district at $747,000. We think that that's worth the free rent that you give us to let us have an office in this building. It's a good partnership, and we're encouraged about what we could be doing next, and we're thankful to be integrated deeply into the administration and with Dr. Kuhn and his staff to make that possible. So I want to say thank you, but do you guys have any questions of me?
I definitely appreciate the partnership. It's a great breeding ground for positive ambassadors in our community, so we do thank you for that.
There you go.
Adam, why do you think the number of kids that are given scholarships is not the same as the number of kids who apply, or well, not apply for, get the scholarship?
Claim rate, yes. That's a whole graduate degree probably of thoughtful time and conversation. It is common among scholarship awarding institutions to have a low claim rate. We have an expiry period that once that has ended, then we return those funds and award it to someone else. But it is perplexing And it's not, I think when the district considers students and what they achieve after high school, their post-secondary plans and success, even a student that has plans doesn't always reach those. They don't always step in the simple straight line path. And I think it does take an entire community around them to help guide them forward.
Sorry, gotta get used to the light. Well, it seems that it's unusual that they would go to the trouble to apply for a scholarship and then not follow through. Do you think it's just they change their mind about going to school or not, or?
We think that they each have family situations, things change in their plans. Oddly enough, some of them forget, and that's surprising, but it happens.
Wow.
And we spend some time trying to reach them, to get in touch with them. Last known address, email address, or we call, communicate with them, or text their parents even to remind their parents to remind the student.
Adam, thank you for your leadership.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you for keeping on trying.
Yes, you bet. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. Now, Ms. Allison Camp, Executive Director for Student Services, will come and report to us on our student services.
All right, good evening. I'm here to tell you about our wonderful department. I've been privileged to hear the other ones, and I personally think ours is the best, so let me tell you about it. We are a service, let me go back. We are a service department, that is in our name, and our goal is to help campuses and students be more successful. We have many different areas, and I'll kind of go through some of them here. So let's start with health services. There's a lot that Angela Valentine does. She's our Director of Health Services. But some of the things that you might see her doing are helping out with absenteeism by, with health, eliminating or minimizing health problems, preventing it through education. She educates the community. She helps students achieve their highest degree, and she also is on campus a lot, assisting with referrals and screenings and health days. And she is a one-woman show. So she is out on campuses a lot helping nurses. We have our attendance officers that fall in our department, and I have clipped their pictures here, and the campuses that they serve. They monitor attendance. They have daily communication with students and parents. They also are the liaison just between the campus and parents, and a lot of times the campus and students. They are our liaisons between the court and the district, and so they do represent us in court. And their main goal, though, is wanting to help students be in school, and they want to be proactive instead of reactive. All right, these are our social workers. I'll let you, and they are housed on campuses as well, just like our attendance officers. And they are also liaisons between families and the school, and they work a lot with families to help them during crisis situations or just alleviate family stressors. A lot of times they may point them in the direction of where they need to go in the community or the direction of who they need to contact in the schools. They can also, our schools can call on them when maybe they're seeing behavior or attendance issues. They can collaborate with the school on how to help the family if maybe there's something going on. And so a lot of times our schools put in referrals for families, for social workers to become involved. And then they also are involved out in the community, and they're very well, they have a lot of knowledge of all of the different resources available, and They also educate us as well as families on those resources. We have behavior supports in our department as well, and Rebecca Sellers is the Assistant Director of Behavior Supports, and then we have behavior coordinators who I have listed here. They are housed on campuses and assist more than one school. And then we also have campus behavior liaisons on every campus. Then in our behavior sports department, we also have kinder transition classes. We have one at Bassetti and one at Ortiz. We have our STEPS program in elementary and middle school. Y'all have recently heard about our new STEPS program starting at Hartford. We also have our student achievement program, which is housed at Hartford and then also at Bonham, and that is for K through 12. And then we have what we call our TIP program, or our therapeutic intervention program, and that is at Craig. That's a middle school program. So all of these programs fall under our behavior supports and serve our students in our campuses. This is the framework that y'all have seen before, kind of showing where each of these personnel fall. Behavior support coaches are our CHAMPS coaches, and then behavior support liaisons are on every campus. We added our high school campuses this year. Then we have our behavior support coordinators, and then ultimately SPED, or special ed department. Social workers and counselors kind of work with all of those tiers. And then y'all heard from Wendy and Susan Pearsall earlier this year. There are CHAMPS coaches, and they're also part of our behavior department. And then I just listed some of the other things we do on our department. We train and supervise assistant principals. We have elementary and secondary DAP, expulsion hearings, transition meetings from JDC and Taylor County Learning Center. JDC is our JJAEP. We are the liaisons between campuses and parents during disagreements, and then, or our campuses can call us, and or parents. We do threat assessments. We assist campuses with those. Impact aid. We Title IX investigation transfers. These are just some of the things that we do day to day in our office. The wonderful thing about student services is it's different every day. So, questions?
Appreciate everything y'all do.
Absolutely.
The steps, I thought the secondary steps, is that middle school?
Correct. That is
Did it move?
No, it is at Woodson still.
It said Craig.
That is the TIPS, Therapeutic Intervention Program. So we have the STEPS program at Woodson, and then we have
In Hartford.
and Hartford. We added at Hartford.
Okay.
For elementary only. And then TIP is
At
at
Craig.
Craig.
Okay.
And we only have that in middle school. Good question.
Great.
All right.
Do y'all have roller skates? Do you use roller skates in your offices?
I wish.
Thank you so much, Ms.
All right,
Camp.
thank you.
Letters, goal progress monitoring. Welcome back up to our podium, Miss Patty Blue. Again, our Associate Superintendent for Secondary Curriculum and Instruction.
Hi. So one of the things you'll remember back when we did Lone Star Governance training for the board was talking about monitoring our goals throughout the year. And if you remember, one of our goals has to do with third grade literacy, one is third grade math, and then we have the one that is the CCMR, and that's the one we're going to talk about tonight. So just a reminder that what is CCMR is College Career Military Readiness. And TEA defines college career military readiness as a set of indicators that measure high school graduates' preparedness for college, workforce, or military. So how do they demonstrate those things? To be college ready, the graduates can enroll and succeed in entry-level college courses. This can be demonstrated by meeting the TSI, the Texas Success Initiative, for reading, ELA reading and math. They can be career ready. They would be graduates then are ready to enter the workforce, and they have mastered core academic skills, employability skills, and technical skills. Or they're ready to enlist in the U.S. military or in the Texas National Guard. So, these indicators are closely linked to graduation requirements, but they can vary depending on what the student's future plans are. This is not one size fits all. This is tailored to meet what the kids think their after high school plans were going to be. This is a big role in the Texas accountability system, our A through F rating system. So how does TEA measure students meeting CCMR? It can be done through the TSI testing. It can be done through dual credits. It can be AP exams. It could be earning an associate's degree. It could be on-ramps courses. Those are some college prep and some different courses offered. It can be earning an industry-based certification, an IBC. It could be, and they also complete the program of study. They could complete their IEP and workforce readiness goals. They could have an advanced diploma and receive special education services. Or they could enlist in the United States Armed Forces, or they could enlist in the Texas National Guard. Any of those, the student would be considered having met CCMR. Many of our students meet it in more than one area, but as long as they meet it in one area, they're considered CCMR ready. So, here's kind of a story about where we've been in 2023. And I'm going to give credit to Janae Weidman, that you know has been doing assessment and accountability and has now moved to be the principal at Bowie Elementary. She shared these numbers that she had pulled together from the last couple of years. So you can look at it like Abilene High, 207 students had earned CCMR. There was a total of 346 students. So that translates to 60%. That's really what credit means. TEA just calls it credit, but it's a percent is what it is. So you can see where we were in 23. This is where we were in 24. So the good news is, if you look, especially down there at the district, we went from 45 to 54. So there was an increase. I will remind you that CCMR is one of the pieces in our accountability system that runs behind. So like when we get the rating in August of 25, it will not be the graduates in May of 25. It'll be the graduates in May of 24. So everything runs behind. So where are we with the class of 25? Well, we don't have mid-year data from previous years to really compare, but these are the pieces that we know if we're monitoring these pieces that come May, we should be in a lot better shape than we've been in the past. So we have 770 seniors district-wide. And there's a reminder on here that because kids can meet it in more than one area, you can't try to add up these numbers to be 359, which is how many of our seniors already have met CCMR. One way or the other, they've already met it. There have been 228 that have met the TSI criteria, so they've met it in reading and math. We have 131 students that have already earned an industry-based certification, and the bulk of that testing actually happens in the spring. So that number will probably go up pretty significantly when we actually get close to the end of the year and the end of their programs. We have 172 seniors that are enrolled in some kind of dual credit this past fall. We also have 68 students that are completing IEPs and demonstrating workforce readiness. They're in the process of pursuing those IEPs to finish it. That's their individual education plans, so they're receiving special ed services. We also have 86 students that are on advanced diploma, did I say that right? Yes, plans, and they're receiving specialized services. So the bottom line is, we feel like we're in pretty good shape, that our numbers are going to be improving. We still have time. We're still really monitoring all of these things. some of the, whoops, I went the wrong way. These are the goals in our progress measures. If you'll notice, we said we were going to watch our IBCs. We were going to look at how many dual credit hours they're earning. We're monitoring TSIA, we're monitoring SAT, ACT, and then we're also monitoring our college prep classes, which that is still a work in progress for seniors, so none of our seniors would have met that yet. So, what are we doing to make sure we have more kids to keep increasing that number? Well, big thing is we're increasing dual credit options. We have a lot more partner institutions. You know, we have McMurray, we have Cisco, we have TSTC, we have Angelo State, we have ACU, we have Hardin-Simmons. We have lots of options for kids to get dual credit hours. We are publicizing those opportunities. We have dual credit meetings that are coming up. In the past, there was one dual credit meeting held for the entire district. This year, there's going to be one at Abilene High and one at Cooper for their 8th grade feeding students to come up. They're going to be on the same night. They'll get the same information. They're using the same PowerPoint. We've created some one-pagers that have information. We've created a dual credit handbook, so the parents have access to understand more of the information and how dual credit classes work. And then one of the big things, if you remember back in the fall, is we actually added that we are weighting dual credit classes. So trying to encourage kids that if GPA is big on their horizon, you can take dual credit classes and still get the weight for your GPA. We also are being a lot more intentional about students taking TSI. We're providing more study sessions for them. We also are figuring out, especially in math, we probably have been testing at the wrong time. Cassidy Seaton, our secondary math consultant, has really analyzed and looked at this test, and she's figured out it's very heavy on Algebra 1, which most kids are taking it either their 8th or 9th grade year. We then wait and test them their junior, senior year. So we're putting 2 years between when they're seeing a lot of the curriculum and when they're taking the test. The other big thing that we're working with is the state test, the STAR test, allows kids to use a graphing calculator when they take the Algebra 1 EOC test. So yes, that's the way our teachers are teaching it, for them to use the calculator. The TSI, they don't get the calculator. So we're being very purposeful to teach our kids how to do the algebra without the calculator as well. So we've already seen some early indications because some of our honors classes, we went ahead and tested them this fall and we had better luck. So we think we have found out that part of the struggle we're having with math is when we're testing the kids. So we're going to be much more purposeful and a little more aggressive about taking the TSI earlier in the math area especially, and see if we do it closer to the algebra class, if the kids can be more successful on that test.
What is TSI?
Texas Success Initiative. It's basically the one that says, do you have the basic math and reading skills to be successful in college?
It determines if kids have to take remedial classes when they get to college, correct?
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we're doing is we are increasing the number of industry-based certifications that we have available. Lucille Fullen and the CTE department and the principals are working on finding those that can be made available, and that goes along with the level 1 and level 2 certifications that are available as well. Trying to find those that the kids can take and be successful on, and the timing and everything is what it needs to be for the kids. You know, another thing that we're doing is we have a district level CCMR committee that meets monthly to discuss these things and to look at our data to see what kind of things do we need to create, like dual credit handbooks, the one-page flyers, having more than one meeting, creating the PowerPoints, just all those different things. We're working with the communications division to build out a website where there's a lot more information about CCMR that parents can get to it to help them understand why is this important for your child. I will say a lot of people have the opinion that, well, you just want it because it builds accountability for the district. No, we want it because if your kid can meet that indicator, then they're going to be ready to do what they want to do when they graduate, and that's our goal. So we also are starting to have CCMR activities and conversations a whole lot earlier. Elementary, we're being more purposeful about career exposure, some field trips, talking to elementary kids about setting goals. What does that mean to set a goal and to reach the goal? Middle school, again, a lot more career exposure. Zello interest surveys. Zello is a program that we can use. It's online, that helps the kids kind of narrow down what is it that they might be interested in. What do you want to do after you graduate? Starting those plans, having that conversation. What path do you need to take in high school to get to where you want to be? And then, of course, high school, more and more conversations with kids about where do you want to be? What do you want to do? How are we going to help get you there? And then Career Craft has also been put in place to help us track CCMR. And I will tell you that our campuses are working very, very hard to track and make sure our kids meet one of these criteria, and that we don't get to their senior year and go, uh-oh, we missed this kid. They needed something for them to be ready for whatever they want to pursue. So being a lot more purposeful with those kind of things happening too. Do want to remind you, because there's some conversation about CCMR, and there's really two places this does come up. Not only is it really good for kids, it's in our accountability system, but yes, there's an outcomes bonus piece that does affect the district. And just making sure you realize that counting for accountability and counting for outcomes bonus is not identical. And so that's what this shows you, is just a little bit of a comparison. The bonuses, it's an associate's degree, or you have to meet the TSI criteria and you have to enroll in post-secondary. So just because you meet the TSI criteria, if you don't actually go in and enroll in a post-secondary program, then it doesn't count towards an outcome bonus. So there's a little more involved to make the outcomes bonus piece happen. But first and foremost, just meeting the CCMR is the first step that we need for kids, because we know then they're leaving us ready to do what they want to do.
And to be clear, outcomes bonus is money that comes from the state of Texas to the school district, correct?
Yes, it does. So, questions?
I'll just say I appreciate y'all bringing these goal progress measures to us on a regular basis now. I mean, we talk about a lot of things in these meetings, but ultimately we're here about improving our kids' academic performances. And if we're not looking at numbers on a monthly basis, then we really don't know which direction we're going. So I think it helps. It keeps you guys accountable. It keeps us accountable to the community to make sure that we're doing our job and continuing to improve the experience our kids get. So I appreciate you guys making this a priority to bring this to us on a regular basis.
Yes, sir. Like I said, it's good for us too. It's good for us too.
It is. And it is a nice way to stay on track and to be sure we're not chasing any rabbits.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blue.
Thank you. We're now going to move to business items that require board action. Item A, under number 9, letter 9, item 9A, District and Financial Compliance Report. Jennifer Hines? There you are. This is Mr. Jeremy Stevens from AISD.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jeremy Stevens. I'm a partner with AISD, and our firm has completed the audit of the financial statements of the district as of and for the year ended August 31st, 2024. We issued those financial statements a week or so ago. I believe everybody's been provided a copy of those financial statements. It's a big bound packet. I don't know if you have it available to you electronically, but I'll reference it, and then I also will reference the presentation that's up on the slide deck. Before I get into it, though, I want to say audit went well this year. Did not have any adjusting journal entries as a result of audit procedures. Additionally, we're not reporting any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting. So like I said, a good clean audit. So that being said, get into the financial statements and the presentation. Beginning with our opinion, which starts on page number 2, goes on over through page number 4. I've summarized the main points of that auditor's report up on the slide. First of all, it does start with our opinion, which starts at the top of page number 2. Basically states that in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the district. So this is what's known as an unmodified or a clean audit opinion. It then goes on to describe our basis for our opinion at the bottom of page number 2, which is that we conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and that we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Moving on to page number 3, at the top there, it does describe management's responsibilities for the financial statements, which is that management is responsible for the preparation and the presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and management is responsible for the design and implementation of internal controls. And lastly, at the bottom of page number 3, it describes our responsibilities as auditor, which our responsibility is to express an opinion as to whether the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. There's some additional narrative regarding our approach to internal controls, which is that we gain an understanding of the district's internal controls to design our audit procedures. However, we do not test them to an extent that allows us to express an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. So we're not expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. Now moving on to some of the basic financial statements. I'll start with the statement of net position. Starts on page number 15 and then goes on over to page number 16. I've got a slide here that's at a very summarized level with a comparative column for 2023. This statement of net position provides a snapshot of all assets and liabilities of the district as of August 31st, 2024 at a consolidated level. It's presented on what's known as the accrual basis of accounting, so it includes all assets and liabilities of the district, including those which are considered long-term in nature. So it does have your capital assets on here. It has liabilities for your bonds payable that are outstanding, as well as liabilities for your net pension, net OPEB, the other post-employment benefit plan as well. Under this basis of accounting at year end, you'll see total assets and deferred outflows of resources about $410 million. Previous fiscal year is about $425 million. So total assets and deferred resources, deferred outflows of resources decreased about $14.5 million. Primarily that decrease is seen as a reduction in capital assets caused by depreciation. As far as liabilities and deferred inflows of resources, about $409 million at the end of the current fiscal year. Previous fiscal year is about $432.6 million. So total liabilities and deferred inflows decreased about $23.3 million year over year. That reduction, largely a couple things that are mainly driving it. First of all, in the previous fiscal year, the district was in overpayment status from the state regarding to its foundation state revenue, meaning that the state had overpaid the district in 2023 by about $10 million. That was reflected as a liability in the 23 fiscal financial statements. In 24, the district was still in that overpayment status, but had reduced down to about a $3 million number. So that overpayment came down a little bit. And then the second item is related to those liabilities related to the net pension and the net OPEB liabilities. There's some fluctuations in there that decreased it. If you added up your assets less your liabilities, you get a total net position at year end just under $1 million. Previous fiscal year, it was a deficit of about $7.8 million. I do remind everybody that the statement of net position, like I said, is on a full accrual basis of accounting. Governmental accounting standards require that any net pension liabilities and net other post-employment benefit liabilities get recorded to the entity's financial statements. The TRS pension plan and other post-employment benefit plan that all school district teachers and personnel are members of statewide is in a deficit position, meaning that the assets are less than what the actuaries say the pension plan is going to have to pay out over the course of its lifetime. That deficit gets allocated out to every school district in Texas based off of past performance history of how many teachers have been in the plan and so forth, and it gets allocated out. So anyways, like I said, it is required to be reflected in your financial statement. However, you continue to pay into the pension plan and the other post-employment benefit plan under the regular funding formula of TRS. So it's not a liability that you have to necessarily liquidate in the upcoming years. Anyways, I know that was a big long spiel, but just wanted to give you kind of disclosure of what was driving that. But that impact of recording those net pension plans and the other post-employment benefit plan, it does reduce your net position by about $110 million. So it's a very significant number that the state of Texas and the Governmental Accounting Standards Board requires you to report on this particular statement. Next statement that I'll touch on is the balance sheet of governmental funds on page number 19. Again, this particular statement is a snapshot of assets and liabilities of the district. However, it's presented on what's known as the modified accrual basis of accounting. So its focus is on current assets and current liabilities. It doesn't include long-term capital assets. Also does not include any of the long-term liabilities for your bonds payable, net pension plan, or the other post-employment benefits. This particular statement, its focus is on the district's current resources and then its current obligations. Under this basis of accounting, you'll see total assets at year-end about $86.4 million. In the previous fiscal year is about $94 million. So assets did decrease year over year by about $7.6 million. Again, if you look at the individual categories there, a big part of that is reduction in receivables, and then also a reduction in other assets. That other assets category, what gets rolled up into there is there's a interfund borrowing between the general fund and then other special revenue funds. It kind of fluctuates based on timings of when you request reimbursements for various grant programs and so forth. That's due from, and other assets decreased a little bit, so that was kind of driving that down a little bit. And then for liabilities, you'll see about total liabilities at end of current fiscal year is about $20.9 million. Previous fiscal year is about $34.6 million. So liabilities did decrease about $13.7 million year over year. Again, a large part of that, it's in that other liabilities. But as I mentioned earlier, the overpayment from the state of Texas decreased about $7 million year over year. And then the rest of that is the other side of that interfund borrowing being reduced. If you added up your assets less your liabilities, you get total fund balance at year end, about $65.5 million. Previous fiscal year, it was about $59.3 million. So it did increase year over year, about $6.2 million. This next slide kind of illustrates which categories of fund balance increased. Largely, the increase is in the amounts restricted for debt service, up to that about $19.3 million from about $17.5 million last year. And then the unassigned fund balance is where the rest of the increase is at, up to about $41.8 million this year. One measure that you can use to kind of gauge the health of unassigned fund balance is to compare it to your average monthly expenditures of your general fund. I generally here to keep it, maintain a reserve of at least 3 times your average monthly general fund expenditures. Based off of the fiscal year 2024 expenditures in the general fund, that unassigned fund balance equates out to about 3.1 times your average monthly general fund expenditures. So it is pretty much right in line with what here's the recommendation. I am, again, reminding all boards this year, again, we were at the fiscal cliff. For several years, school districts have been receiving quite a bit of additional funding from the federal government for the ESSER program. Those have been spent down, so you'll no longer have those expenditures going forward. In the 2024 fiscal year, those ESSER funds, I think they had about $9 million of expenditures last year. Presumably, some of those will be coming back into the general fund this year. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going forward that, yeah, your unassigned fund balance at August 31st, 2024 was 3 times your average monthly general fund expenditures, but they may be going up because of loss of ESSER funding going forward. All right, last statement I'll touch on is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance on page 22. Again, this is the income statement of the district. This first slide, again, summarizes revenues and other financing sources of the district. You'll see total revenues, current fiscal year is about $211 million. Previous fiscal year is about $219 million. If you look at the individual categories there, federal revenues is actually what's kind of driving that reduction. They're down about $10 million year over year. You'll note that state revenues have increased a little bit, and then that was offset by local revenues. So kind of local property tax revenues decreased, but then that was kind of offset by state funding. But really the decrease is kind of those federal programs coming down a little bit. And then as far as expenditures of the district, about $205 million in the current fiscal year, about $239 million in the 2023 fiscal year. So overall expenditures decreased about $34 million year over year. If you look at the categories, pretty much every functional category decreased in expenses year over year. Largest reduction is in that capital outlay line item, down to about $4.8 million this year from about $29.4 million last year. That was it for the basic financial statements. There's two other reports in the very back that I'll just briefly touch on before I turn it over for questions. But first of those is on page 90, which is our report on internal control over financial reporting and noncompliance. Again, in this report, we reiterate that we're not expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. However, if we did report any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls or any instances of noncompliance, this is the report that we would communicate those to you. Again, happy to report no such matters. And then the last report is on page 92. It's our report on compliance required by the Uniform Guidance or our single audit report. The district receives federal funding from the federal government. When an entity receives money like that, they do have to have a compliance audit performed in accordance with the U.S. government's uniform guidance. Basically, we select programs of the district that we deem to be major programs, and we perform tests of those programs to express an opinion as to whether we felt the district complied with the requirements of those programs. This year, we tested the Title I Part A program and then the wrap-up of that ESSER program. The opinion is at the top of page number 92. Basically states that, in our opinion, the district complied with the requirements of those two major federal programs. So again, a clean opinion on the single audit as well. And that is what I have prepared. Again, was quick, but I will open up for any questions.
Amazing work. Thank you for working with our team. We hope that we were accommodating. I'm sure we were. We know Jennifer. And
Yes,
so
yes, team did a great job. Have to give kudos to the entire team. As you know, it's change in personnel, which is always kind of stressful for everybody, but I think everybody handled it very well, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank you, Mr.
questions?
Stevens, for being here tonight.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you for sitting
All
and
right.
waiting for your turn. We appreciate that very much.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion regarding the district and financial compliance report? Yes.
I move to approve the district and financial compliance report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Taylor Tidmore and a second by Blair Schrader. Thank you. We'll now take a roll call vote. Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We'll now move on to item B, high school cell phone policy resource. Dr. Gustavo Villanueva will be here to help us with this information. He's our Associate Superintendent for Student Services.
All right, thank you. Back in November, we brought a resolution to you asking us to support moving forward with our high school cell phone policy modification. One of the items on the resolution was that we secure resources, or that we look at to see what resources are needed and then request and secure the resources necessary to do that. So that's what we're here for today. We are requesting, it is in your board docs, the funding of the Yonder pouches, which we have talked about in the past. Those pouches are used to securely store and lock cell phones and other electronic devices at the beginning of the instructional day. They can be unlocked with an unlocking mechanism that will be available either at certain times through the day or specifically or for sure at the end of the instructional day. So students would have their phone with them, locked throughout the day in the pouch, would be able to unlock it when they leave campus. Students maintain possession of the phone. It creates, and I think these next 3 points are really important, it creates consistent enforcement and increases student compliance. Like, this is what everyone does, and we do it at the beginning of the day, and then we unlock it at the end of the day. It also reduces the reliance on teacher enforcement, which we know with their current policy has not been 100%. It reduces and the reason why is because teachers are concerned about conflict and they want to focus on instruction, and so this will reduce the likelihood of teacher-student conflict, and it allows teachers to focus, to remain on relationships and instruction. You have a quote for these pouches that was given to us. The quote includes the pouches for 3,825 students at a cost of $32 each. It is a one-time cost with some yearly maintenance costs. You'll notice that on the quote we have a 15% buffer, which means we purchase 15% additional bags for when they get lost, or we have new students that register that we need to supply those for. And so we would have them ready and in stock for distribution. The first pouch is loaned to the student. Students would pay a replacement cost if they lost it or if it was damaged. The pouch is returned to the campus at the end of the school year for it to be utilized in the following year. You'll notice that the full cost of this, of the materials, the pouches, and the consulting from the company, they come to our campuses and help us figure out what's the best process for us to use to best utilize the Yonder pouches to be most effective. Total cost is $125,000. On Teams or on digitally somehow, we have the Yonder pouch representative Luke Stoltz. We also have, been patiently waiting here, our high school principals available for any questions that you might have. Hey Luke, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Luke? I'm going to try one more time, Luke. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
We can now. What I'm going to do is just allow the board to ask you some questions, and you can answer those rather than us do what we were going to do at workshop with just an initial presentation. I've done a piece of the presentation. Our principals are also here so that they can answer any questions. So he's available for any questions that you might have, and our principals also are available for questions that you might have.
This may be more for you, Dr. V, but what's done in middle school, they just put them in their backpacks right now?
Right. They put them in their backpacks and they keep them, they have to be out of sight and off during the school day.
And I guess to the principals then, the high schoolers don't carry backpacks that often, or?
It's just the sheer number,
You want to come up here?
vastness of our campuses. So, the logistics of a child that is coming from.
Can you come on up, Ms. Seibert? Thank you.
I would say all three of you come up just to make sure you're up at the mic.
Just the vastness of our campus, both Cooper, Abilene High. A kid might go from academic building to old vocational to new vocational. We don't have enough people that would be able to enforce making sure they're not pulling it out of their backpack. In that, just the hallways, just the larger number of our students on our campus. Mr. Ashby spent a tremendous amount of time researching schools that have had successful implementation, and all of them that are our size, if they didn't start with Yonder bags, they wound up going to Yonder bags.
That was a question. We did miss our workshop portion on this. So a few questions we may have. So just to be, that was a question. So you have bigger high schools have ended up using the Yonder bags.
I know there's been like some concern about just the logistics of making this happen and making sure teachers have the resources they need if their kids don't have access to a phone or technology. Do you feel like that's coming along at appropriate pace, or y'all feel good about where you're at in that process of figuring those logistics out?
I'm gonna answer it, Jenna. You're saying that access to computers in the classroom for students rather than utilizing a cell phone. And so are we moving in the?
I guess I had two questions I should have separated. One was just logistically how you do this on a day-to-day basis, getting all the kids in and out. I think especially at Cooper, there's kind of more open concept campus. Like, how do you feel about, have y'all figured out how that's gonna work on a day-to-day basis? Do you feel good about where you're at in that process?
So as we have visited about how do we do this in the campuses that we have that are so open and have so many entrances and exits. We have visited with Luke to talk about how other campuses do it. He has suggested we visit a couple of campuses in the Metroplex that are doing that very well, been very successful. And our plan was to visit them last Thursday and Friday. We canceled that. We will visit those campuses at the end of this month so that we get an idea of how they do it and then figure out how we're going to tailor it. Luke, would you like to speak to some of that, of how some districts, some campuses are using Yonder pouches, how they're figuring out the logistics, the beginning of the day, end of the day?
I'm going to need some help on having a little bit of audio issues there. If you could repeat that question, I'm happy to answer that.
Are you typing in the question? So the other question was then on the access to technology.
Yeah, I think
I
Ms. Seibert had expressed concern about some teachers just saying, our kids use their phones in the classroom sometimes, are we going to have things in place to replace that?
So 7 of our Chromebook carts on our campus were barrel chargers, and they didn't have lockdown browsers, which lockdown browsers are very important these days to use for testing and things like that. I was told that those 7 Chromebook carts were going to be replaced, so that's very helpful on my campus. I can say that, especially as we continue to get stricter and stricter with it, that we do have to make sure that we're staying up on our Chromebook cart availability. So those 7 being replaced will help tremendously, but those 7 were already being used every day. They just weren't very reliable. So I do think it's something that we'll have to continue to look at and increase when we can.
I would say there are particular teachers who make use of that quite often that would have been, we're going to try to figure out how to make sure they get that resource. They have that availability. Not all 100% of our teachers do that, and so we're going to channel it there first and then works towards adding resources. Luke, did you get the question?
I'm sorry, it's extremely difficult to hear the conversation.
Did you type it in? I think we typed the question into the chat.
I put my phone number in the chat if you wish to call me, if that's an easier way to speak to me, and then I can speak directly through those things here. Logistics of using the pouches at the beginning and the end of the day. Part of our process, and thank you for inviting me here to speak. I wish I was able to hear and see, but at the beginning of the day, students arrive with their pouches. The policy would state that phones, AirPods, smartwatches would go into the pouch before crossing through the doors, walking in the morning. Each campus, upon the arrival, is going to look different. So our implementation team, part of the process and part of what you would be paying for is to have Yonder arrive to meet with each building principal, to do the building walkthroughs and discuss what their arrival process looks like. But those students, as they come into the building, we'll work with what that process looks like, but the students have their phones put inside the pouch, all their chat goes in, and they carry this with them from bell to bell, arrival through dismissal. Now, this is where we're going to work with your district, is to help develop the policy to make this very black and white. Either in the pouch or it's not. Anything that is seen outside of the pouch is going to make it very easy to enforce the policy simply because a phone is visible as it should be in the pouch. Now, this is designed to be carried with them, and this is the true benefit of Yonder, is the fact that the students have the phone on their person, so we're not creating any antagonistic relationship between teacher and student, trying to police these phones. But at the end of the day, the dismissal process is very simple. We have a number of different types of magnets. This is the magnet that they will most commonly use, which get mounted at the exits. You can mount these on laptop carts. We even have portable magnets as well as outdoor weatherproof magnets. But as the students are dismissing at the end of the day, it's a simple tap of their pouch on the way out the door. They retrieve their phone, This might sound daunting, but those students are going to keep those pouches with them. We're going to reinforce the policy. We're going to be on top of the communication so that the students have that accountability and responsibility to bring their pouches to and from school on a daily basis. If you think 4,000 pouches roughly, that collecting and distributing those can create a bit of a logistical nightmare. But 95% of our partnerships follow this model, these best practices that we put in place. And we have schools that have upwards of 3,500 students that maintain this model with fidelity and have tremendously high success rate with that.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you again. I know this is something I've talked about, and I know this is not easy, and it's going to create some consternation, and I've heard about it in my own home from my son. So I appreciate it. I know the struggle is real, but as we've talked about throughout this meeting, we have other bigger problems to solve, and I think the data would suggest that schools that go to this type of process have a better outcome. And so thank you all. I know it's not easy, but I do think it's important. So with that, I would move to approve the high school cell phone policy resource request as presented.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Is the magnets that are currently used, if we have classrooms that need access to those phones, that don't have the availability of the cows and the carts, why not have that teacher have a magnet to utilize, and then they can open it up and utilize it?
It isn't.
Feasibility, or do we not want to go in that direction?
We probably don't want to go there because controlling that would be complicated, and who do you give them those two? But it can be done. You can give every staff member one of those unlocking mechanisms. But I think you open them probably not at the beginning of the process. I think over time we might look at that. So.
Even with the policy we present have at Abilene High, we don't let teachers bring them out to use them because it's a mixed message. And then you get into, well, we were told we could use them, and so we are using just Chromebooks and other resources because it's easier for everybody when it's all the same.
Anything else?
He has an additional comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Luke.
Thank you. Regarding putting magnets in the hands of the teachers, part of the issues that we have with policies all across the nation right now is the over-reliance on teachers really being consistent in enforcing that. And we've known, there's statistics that 77% of districts across the U.S. follow this type of model, and we know it to be not as effective because we need that 100% buy-in for teachers. So what we aim to do is remove the teachers from really being at the center of that, where students can pressure teachers to, hey, let me open my pouch real quick so I can text mom, and bend those rules, putting that teacher in that bind. And like I said earlier, that antagonistic relationship where teachers have to be the enforcers. And what's great about the Yonder program is that it really gets the weight off of the teachers from having to be that phone police, where they can focus on the instruction, they can focus on creating those healthy relationships with the students that are in their care. We put the magnets in strategic locations so that at the end of the day and in emergency situations, every student has quick and efficient access to that magnet. We have a school in North Dallas, in Richardson. They have 3,200 students. I've been there many times and witnessed this. It takes just over 5 minutes to empty out the entire campus with everyone's pouches opened up, heading into the bus, the parent pickup, and that's done right there at the exit. And that's by intentionality. It's what we plan with these districts when we go into these campuses. So we want to remove the teachers from that weight.
we also want to maintain the consistency across the policy enforcement. And so if we remove the weight off of the teachers, this is going to add benefit to not only your teachers, but also your administration and being able to enforce a policy consistently. This is going to trickle to many different areas, from academic performance. I've been on this call since the very beginning and heard a lot of discussion around your intense focus on improving academic performance, about reducing the behavior. It's transforming the culture. And we also want that for the teachers. So every stakeholder in this is going to benefit in some way, including your parent community, your administration. And for your students, it's not something that we would be taking away from your kids. This is something that we're giving back to your students. And that's a phone-free education where they can learn without the distraction or the fear of what can be done with these cell phones from other students.
In addition to, I just have one quick question about the back and forth we have to Adams to the lift and to Holland, and how does that work for us? What if they're driving, we want them to have their phones, and then they lock them back up when they get to their destination, they're just gonna, no.
Those are logistics. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Luke.
Didn't mean to cut anyone off. I can't see or hear, so forgive me. Those logistics, we map out very carefully. There's no stone that's going to be left unturned. So as those students are leaving, we'll have magnets placed at the front desk so that students for late arrival, early dismissal can open up their pouches as they leave. That's a safety precaution too. We want them to have their phones when they're in transportation, but as they get to that other campus, we'll create those clear guidelines, whether it's providing those other campuses, career and tech centers, making sure that they have those magnets as well. We work with a number of schools that face those situations, and it's not just leaving for tech centers. It's also, what about athletics? What about band? What about field trips? All these different situations. These are the fine details that we're really going to dive into when we start talking at the district and then meeting individually with the building principals to go over those procedures.
And one nice thing, I would say a conservative estimate of the percentage of students that drive their own vehicle to the lift is probably about 10 to 15. And so the vast majority of our kids are riding the bus, which would not require to unlock. So it won't be a huge number of students that would have to do that.
Great. We do have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Dr. Tidmore. We'll now take a roll call vote. Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Cindy Earls? Yes. Angie Wiley? Yes. Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore?
Yes.
Blair Schrader?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We'll now move on to item C,
Thank you,
Shotwell
Luke.
Complex Financial Report. Thank you, principals, for being here.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Even though you couldn't see us or hear us, we could see and hear you, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to partnering with you.
We are lovely people. This will be Jennifer Hines. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good evening.
She is our Executive Director for Finance.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Kuhn. I'm happy to be here this evening. And we're going to talk about the annual Shotwell report. Give it just a second and get our, sure. All right, here we go. So just a few things we're going to cover tonight. Just a historical overview of the Shotwell Fund, then we're going to look at revenue and expense, the historical annual income, and then take a look at fund balance. So the history of the Shotwell Fund, it was created in the fiscal year 2003. The primary reason was to track really for it to act as a savings account if the fund made money to go against turf. So we're going into, I guess this is 21, 22 years of having the separate fund. So just a quick reminder of what goes into the revenue. It's really three main categories: event revenue, concessions, and then other. Other is the advertising and any kind of rental facilities, and then vending machine commissions. That's at a 50% rate. The other 50% stays with wherever the machine is located. If it's at a campus or whatever, the 50% comes back to Shotwell. That's kind of how that contract was written way back when. So that's why it's a 50%. Just a quick look at the revenue. Fiscal year 23, total revenue was $514,000. I do want to make a quick note. The event revenue for this is fiscal year 23. That year, so think back at the beginning of the fiscal year instead of the ending. The press box was still under construction, so there were no non-AISD events held, like for playoffs or postseason games. So that event revenue does not have any outside games in. So fast forward to the end of fiscal year 24, we were starting to host games. So you see an increase in there. The total revenue increased about 36%, and that's really the main factor is the difference in gate revenue, and then also being able to host some of those postseason games. So 36% seems like a large increase, but because we went from no postseason to, again, hosting next year, 24 versus 25 will probably be a more accurate picture of how we're landing. Concessions revenue is increased quite a bit. It's also due to more games being held at the complex. Pricing was also increased for concessions. It was pretty minimal, but just to make sure we're being, able to cover our cost and making what profit we can. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And then other revenue is mainly in the advertising. We did have one advertiser in fiscal year 23 pay a couple of years up front, so that's really the main difference of why it was a decrease this year. We had someone just go ahead and pay for a few years versus paying every single year. So not really anything major, it was just more of a timing issue. But total revenue overall increased about 25% from the previous year. I think it'll be really interesting to see next year when we compare 24 to 25, because I know, again, our number of postseason games or even towns that maybe wanted to meet in the middle, we're seeing an increase in what we're hosting. So that'll be a really good thing to look forward to next year to see how we're comparing year over year. So Shotwell expenses, same, we kind of keep them in the same categories: event, concessions, and other. The main cost in event is really the three there's a few others, but I've hit the highlights here. They're the main costs: payroll for game workers, officiating, and then police and ambulance services. Concessions expense is obviously our food cost or any kind of general supplies, non-food cost. And then payroll costs for the concession workers as well. And then our main expense in other is the utilities. So any kind of water, electric, anything like that, that's really what's hitting that category. And you're gonna see year over year, there was quite a bit of an increase in expense as well. So total, our event expenses increased about 59%. This is mainly rise in payroll due to either more game workers or an increased rate, but mainly think about the number of games prior year versus this year increase. So obviously you're going to have an increase in the amount of payroll because they had to be there more often. I do have one thing I want to point out. The number for fiscal year 24 under concessions, That number on this slide is incorrect. It's correct in the report you have, but the total expense for concessions is actually $239,779. That was a mistake on my part, and I apologize. So increased about 25%. Obviously, we've got inflation factors with food cost, payroll cost as well, and then any kind of supply or repair that had to happen on concessions. Equipment is in that number. And then the increase in other expense is all in utilities. So just the cost of operating the lights and, anything, I'll think of all the thing that takes electricity, those costs have continued to rise. So that's the main factor in the other expense category. So just a little history and then down to how we ended 23-24 in the Shotwell Fund. This is the 5th year we've ended in a deficit position for the Shotwell Fund. So mainly due to, even though we see an increase in revenue, our increase in expenses was greater than the increase in revenue. So I think the longer I think next year, I'm anxious to see if we get a little closer, that we get to start hosting more things, start counting that revenue coming in. If we can keep our expenses pretty steady, there is a couple of factors that I don't want to say they're out of our control, but they're hard to control. The cost of officiating, we don't set the rate for that. And then also the cost for police and ambulance services. So those were the big drivers in major increases in cost. So this year, I want to point out also, this number for the lifetime Shotwell, this is just revenue over expense for the life of the fund. So as we continue in years, if we continue to operate in a deficit, this number is going to continue to decline. So it's a little kind of confusing because you're like, oh, we've made 1.2 million. Well, over the years, yes, but as we get closer and closer, obviously the goal is net zero or a surplus, but that number will continue to decline. It's declined over the last 5 years just because of a deficit net position. So the current assigned fund balance that we have for the Shotwell Fund is $502,218. That number hasn't changed in the last several years because we have had a deficit position. So in the years that we had a surplus, or if we get to a position where we have a surplus, that's where you kind of want to adjust that and take what we've added in surplus in the Shotwell Fund and start funneling money through there. If we increased 50,000 or whatever, put it in the assigned fund balance to go back towards the turf. We haven't got to do that in several years, so it's remained the same. And that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions before I get to the final recommendation? Okay, so no questions. It's our recommendation to approve the report as presented and not make any changes to the fund balance, considering it ended in a deficit position.
Is there a motion regarding the 23-24 Shotwell Complex Financial Report? I move that we approve the 23-24 Shotwell Complex Financial Report as presented. Seconded by Danny Wheat. We'll take a roll call vote. Cindy Earls. Yes. Rodney Goodman.
Yes.
Blair Schrader.
Yes.
Angie Wiley. Yes. Danny Wheat.
Yes.
Bill Enriquez.
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. We'll now move to item D, 25-26 AISD Academic School Calendar. Ms. Allison Sims, Associate Superintendent for the Development of Human Resources. Welcome.
Hello. It is time for us to look at the recommendation from the calendar committee and the DWCC for the 25-26 academic calendar. We try again? Nope. Really didn't want to do it. Well, let me just share with you what it is, and just in case the slide doesn't come up. Our DWCC met last Tuesday, and unanimously recommended the adoption of what was calendar draft B as our 25-26 academic calendar. It's what I had presented to you before. Some of the benefits, I believe there are 9, let me see if it will do it now. Nope. There were 9 internal staff development days. It included 2 full work days before school starts, 3 alternative staff development days, and the Monday coming back from Christmas break also is a work day for teachers. And so those were some of the benefits. In my presentation, there's some graphs. We sent it out for survey, but it's very, very clearly, it should be in your board packet, that calendar B was what students, staff, and parents preferred. So my recommendation to you would be to adopt calendar draft B as our academic calendar for next year.
Okay. Sorry about your
It's okay, it
slides.
was in my head, it's good.
Yeah, we have seen it, and so it has come down to that one, and if everybody's happy, we're happy. Is there a motion regarding the 25-26 academic calendar?
So moved.
We have a motion by Rodney Goodman
Second.
and a second by Cindy Earls. We'll now take a roll call vote. Taylor Tidmore?
Yes.
Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Blair Schrader?
Yes.
Angie Wiley? Yes. Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We will now move on to item E, TEA Corrective Action Plan. Again, welcome back, Dr. Gustavo Villanueva.
Hello again. You, in your board docs, have a letter from TEA and a corrective action plan that you need to review and approve in order for us to put it into work, into place. Let me give you a little bit of history. Basically, the corrective action plan is a result of the fact that we have been, in past years, we have been placing students that are considered or labeled as homeless in out-of-school suspension, which is not permitted in general unless there's certain criteria that are met. And the other piece is any student that's below grade 3, so K first and second, are also not allowed to be sent home, suspended as a result of disciplinary, as a disciplinary action. And so in an audit of the data, we were unable to explain to them why that occurred. And so we sent them steps that we had already taken, and then they sent us a corrective action plan that included some of those steps and additional steps. And those are all outlined in that plan. The exceptions to students that are labeled as homeless or in kinder first and second that could be sent home are these right here. If they have an offense that's related to weapons, an offense that's related to a violent offense like an assault, possession or using or being under the influence of any amount of marijuana, controlled substance, a dangerous drug, or alcoholic beverage. And so those are the only reasons that we could suspend or out of school suspend a student that is labeled as or identified as homeless and or in K first and second. Otherwise, we have to look for alternative measures and keep the student on campus in some way. I think that's plainly said, right? We didn't do what we should have. In some cases, this is one of those things we're given where the state never really says anything, and then somebody brings it to attention to TEA for one district, and every district gets an audit. And so we were one of those districts, and some others. I'm assuming we're not the only ones in the same situation. So just so you know a little bit about when I say a student who's labeled as homeless, we are not sending students home that don't have a home. You know, obviously we call a parent, the parent comes and picks them up. And so even in sending the student we should not have, we did not send them nowhere, like out into the streets. And so I just want to clear that up because that's what it sounds like. A student who is labeled as homeless has to meet these criteria. They're children and youth considered to be experiencing homeless, like fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, including those who are sharing housing. So if you're living with a relative, if your two families are together, or you're living with your grandmother, you're living with your uncle, those are, you can apply and be coded as a homeless student. Having a primary nighttime residence that is public or a private place, not designed for ordinary use as a regular sleeping accommodation, so homeless shelter or those types of situations. If we know of a student in that case, we would never suspend them. So I think it is just in our minds what we label as homeless versus how it's labeled in the McKinney-Vento Act, which is a federal act that it's just different in our minds. And so we've had to make that adjustment to know it's a lot more than just that.
I'll also note at the end of the first bullet there, students who live in motels, hotels, live in a trailer park, or at a campground. Students who lack a permanent residence are considered homeless. And that's not to make light of their situation, but in the event that a student was suspended for misbehavior and they were living in a motel, this would have been something that we got dinged for from TEA and need to retrain our APs so they recognize that.
Okay. So the TEA audit findings of the data, basically compliance issues were identified. What I've mentioned to you, we've had students that are experiencing homelessness, first, kinder, and second graders who were being sent home also as a disciplinary measure. And so you have, we have to, or we're required as an early intervention measure to address this noncompliance. And so they've given us a plan that while it is voluntary, if we choose not to agree to it, it may trigger further investigations. And so we would rather agree to have it done. And so this requires your approval tonight because this has to be completed by January 31st. I want you to know that we have identified this discrepancies prior to the audit. So we had been noticing this data, not audit, but had been having conversations already. And we had already implemented some corrective measures. We have a warning system that's integrated into our discipline information system that now warns the administrator, hey, you're about to place a student in out-of-school suspension that's labeled as homeless. And so sometimes in the midst of dealing with discipline, you're not thinking of looking up whether that student is a student who is experiencing homelessness or not. And so this warns them when that's happening. They can override it, but they've been told not to. But at least it's a warning. Like they don't have to look that up. It's given to them. We have done some initial training with assistant principals and principals, and we'll continue to do even more as is aligned, it's mentioned in the corrective action plan. So
who actually makes the determination if they're homeless?
They submit an application, and then our homeless liaison, Darren Cox, and his office will look at the application and approve it. They have to meet those criteria. He is sort of the official, or his office is the official person that finally approves those. They verify to the extent that they can verify. There are limitations to what verification can happen, but they do their best. So
there are no current changes in our legal order or our local policies?
There isn't. They're still there.
Good questions, thank you. Thank you for addressing and making sure we are in compliance, it is certainly something I am feeling is important. Thank you for attending to that.
All right, our recommendation then is that we approve this tonight. So we do need a motion and we need an approval of,
Move to approve the TEA corrective action plan case, number SRD R 2024-07-02 as presented.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Reed. A second by Blair Schrader. We'll now take a roll call vote. Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes, Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Next, we will move to item F, our Early Head Start refunding proposal. Mrs. Julie Wilson, Director of Early Childhood. Welcome.
Hey, hi. Good evening. Thank y'all for letting me come spend some minutes with you. I'm excited to bring this refunding grant to you because it brings quite a bit of money to our district to support our kiddos. So first of all, also happy January, School Board Appreciation Month. I hope we get to see you all on Friday. Bundle up. We'll have some treats if you can make it. We'd love for you guys to be there and greet our little ones. They get very excited. So anyway, so thank you for allowing me to be here. So there's three major things that we're talking about today. The first one is our refunding application. The second one is our community needs assessment. And the third one is our program goals and objectives and action steps. So the first part talks about our refunding application. So within this, we get a letter in November stating our refunding grant opportunity is open. The Office of Head Start gives us our bottom line of the number of kiddos we can serve, which is 521 students, with a little over $6 million between our entire program, which is Head Start and Early Head Start. Early Head Start's at Crockett and Head Start is at Long. And so that serves those 521 students. So what you can see is they break up our budget based on operations and then what we call TNTA, which is training. And then they also want us to provide in-kind, which is 25% of the total federal dollars that they give us. So in the first column, the operations column, that comes out of, we budget for that with salaries, personnel, supplies for the classrooms, any kind of equipment or maintenance that we might have on campus to keep our learning environment developmentally appropriate. The second part, like I said, is the training. That's consulting fees, any extra training or travel or conferences that we would like to send our staff to learn and grow and do make our program better. So a couple of things there. This is pretty steady, our budgeting. In your board docs, you'll see the line items that have listed out exactly what we've budgeted for. This budget is pretty steady. There's no major projects like we've done in the past with artificial playground grass, or we're working on a digital marquee. The biggest request that we have this time is I would like to request one new master family advocate, because we are working towards this magic number of 40 families that the Office of Head Start says that needs to be our case management for our master family advocates. Those advocates, I know I've talked about this in the past, but those advocates serve as along the lines of a social worker for each of our families. So each of our family is assigned to one of our advocates. So we have till August of 27 to get it to 40 families. So if we get to add one more with y'all's approval, which is 100% federally funded, it's a position that's 100% federally funded. We'll be closer to that magic number of 40 that the Office of Head Start would like us to be at. That'll put us at about 54 families. So that's really our biggest request within this, or major change, I would say, within our budget. Some of the other things that our financial focuses are going to be modernizing communication with families along with recruitment efforts, and then continuing to focus on mental health and wellness of everyone that we touch. So it'll be the students, the families, and our staff. So those are the big topics of our budget. The next part talks about our community needs assessment. So this is something that is required to do once every grant cycle. We update it every year because we know there's always updated information. So what you see here is just a summary of the top few things that we kind of thought impact our program or our district the most. But along in the community needs assessment, you have that also in your board docs. I think it's about 60 pages, but it has some really cool information. It has history. Well, I think it's cool, but it has some history of Abilene. It has lots of numbers and graphs of the workforce numbers in Abilene, population, parents that we have that are educated or in school, single families. So it's got a lot of really good, valuable information. Our policy council also uses that to make program decisions that you'll see also at the top of your refunding application. But some of the biggest ones that I see is what we've noticed is our birth to 5 population trends are matching the district trends where we're decreasing just a little bit. I have full faith that we are going to go up very, very soon. The next part is AISD, including Head Start, Early Head Start, Pre-K, special education, bilingual programs, serves 55.7% of our eligible children that we have in the community. So that's birth to 5. We know that that's a community issue, but all of us together serve 55.7% of our eligible kiddos. One thing that is interesting is the average cost of daycare has increased by about $87 a month over the span of a couple years. And then also you'll notice that there's evidence of a 6% inflation rate, which we all are experiencing that since January of 2022. So both of those things really have created a little bit more hardship for some of the families and the greater needs that we're seeing with the families that we're serving. The last one has been on our list for community partners, our teachers, and our families is just we need to increase our awareness of community resources to all those that need them. So that will also help if we get that other master family advocate. Their caseloads will be smaller and they'll be able to disseminate information a little bit easier. We are working with our community partners to ensure we are getting information to them and they are getting information to us. So that's something we're continuing to work on. So that's our community needs assessment. And then the last piece talks about our program goals. So these program goals are labeled Head Start program goals. However, they align perfectly with our district strategic priorities and our campus improvement plan. So we have 3 different big rocks, I guess you would say, but we try to make them all sync with each other. So these goals have remained the same over the 5-year course of our grant. So we're in the 4th year of our 5-year grant. And so we would just like for you to continue to approve these goals. But this is a quick summary of the goals. We want to ensure that we're improving high quality comprehensive services. We're improving our learning environment. We are making sure our community engagement connections are meeting the needs of our campus, our program, and our families. We want to be sure that we are increasing student and family engagement. And then we want to recruit, our staff recruitment and effectiveness are big, big goals, which I know the district is focusing on that as well. We collect data on these 3 times a year in all component areas. So these goals not only affect our academic or our social emotional goals, they impact our health services, they impact our family advocates collecting data on family needs assessments and what goals families are meeting and moving forward on. So we are coaching goals with our classroom teachers. So these program goals are truly comprehensive of our entire program in all component areas. So I thank you for listening and considering reapproval. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. For this budget, we'd love for you to approve so we can continue serving, building the foundation for our AISD kiddos. Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much for your dedication and pass that along to your staff.
I will. Thank you. Thank y'all for your support. We really appreciate it and everything. We feel y'all's support. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Is there a motion regarding the 25-26 Head Start, Early Head Start refunding proposal, program goals and objectives, and updated 24-25 community needs assessment?
So moved.
We have a motion by Cindy Earls. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who is that? Billy. We'll now take a roll call vote. Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Angie Wiley? Yes. Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Blair Schrader?
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore?
Yes.
The vote passes 7-0. Now let's move to item G, Building Brighter Futures Initiative. Dr. Kuhn is going, our superintendent of schools is going to visit with us about that.
Thank you very much. So way back in March or April, when you guys interviewed me, some of you, one or more of you, told me that I would be doing hard things when I took this job. And I don't remember who that person was, but I want to tell you that you were telling the truth. And there have been hard things to do, and there continue to be hard things to do, but that's okay, because it's great to work in a school system and make things better. And I'm very, very happy to be in Abilene ISD. AISD's performance has not been where it needs to be and where it can be, and you hired me to change that state of affairs. We've heard some information tonight about our STAR scores lagging behind the state average STAR scores. We've heard some information tonight about our CCMR points lagging behind the state averages for CCMR points. You are aware that we've adopted a deficit budget. And so I want you to understand one thing very clearly tonight. My administration will always be completely honest. We will tell you the truth of the state of the school district, because if you don't see it clearly, you can't tackle it, you can't address the problems and make change. And we are here to make change and do right by the city of Abilene and do right by our students, because they deserve it and we are good enough to get it done. So tonight I'm here to talk to you very honestly about not only the issues that are present, but also solutions. The definition of insanity, as you all know, is to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And we need to get different results, and so we need to change the way that we do things. And so there's several different things that we've already done to try and address some of these deficiencies. We've implemented a hiring freeze. We've developed a staffing matrix to make sure that we're not hiring when we don't need to be hiring. As our student enrollment declines, our staffing needs to decline commensurately, so we're not spending more money than we're bringing in. You're aware that we've begun to really highly emphasize dual credit courses because they're good for students. They can earn college credits, and actually for their parents, because they can earn college credits more cheaply as dual credit students than they'll be able to earn when they're full-time college students. It also benefits us when it comes to our CCMR rating, and it also benefits the school district financially as more kids take dual credit. We've recently adopted a new curriculum that promises to improve our student performance. We've hired some new personnel in key areas, key leadership areas that are going to make a difference. So we've been doing things, but tonight I bring you a resolution that will take this pace of change and kick it into another gear. Our district vision, if you look on our website, is equipped learners, brighter futures. And with that in mind, I want to present to you an initiative that we're calling Building Brighter Futures. And this is going to be different than the way we have been doing business in Abilene ISD. Building Brighter Futures. First of all, I want to tell you that AISD has adopted a North Star goal. That is the goal. It's not the only goal we have. We have a lot of goals. This is the goal that we keep our eye on. This was adopted before I got here, but I love it, and I think we can do it. The goal is by the end of the 2028-2029 school year, 75% of students in Abilene ISD will be sitting in A or B seats. What that means is seats on A or B rated campuses, 75%. That is an ambitious goal, and it's a good goal. If we accomplish that goal, we will be doing right by our students. Here's the bad news, though. Currently, 6% of our students are sitting in A or B seats. That is not acceptable to me, and I know it's not acceptable to the school board, and so we have work to do. By the end of 24-25, we need that number to be 20% if we're going to be on pace to reach our goal. By the end of 25-26, it needs to be 34, then 48, then 62, then 75. I don't put this on the screen in front of the public watching here and online without understanding that we are not where we need to be, and I'm doing it out of transparency to hold myself and my team accountable for getting us to our North Star goal. We don't have goals to put them on paper and say we have an ambitious goal. We have goals to meet them. That's the reason we have the goal, because our kids deserve it. So how do we get there? Well, we're going to do something that is very different, and I want to share that with you with this slide right here. So we've gone through a process of gathering community and staff input. We started out with a strategic footprint committee. It consisted of 40 staff members and 40 community members. We met several times. Then we went from there to pathways to possibility meetings that we held at all 4 middle schools, and we listened to community input. We had community rank and rate things that they thought were important. We've also been examining grant opportunities through Texas Education Agency to get an idea of the things that Texas education officials at the state level are incentivizing and are interested in seeing. And what we learned from all of that research and all of those meetings that we had was that there is a hunger in Abilene, Texas, to see in Abilene ISD more innovation, a deeper commitment to academic excellence for our students, and fiscal stewardship. And so we are looking to do all 3 of those things and to deliver what our community wants. So the first thing I want to point out, there are 3 main things I want to point out here tonight, is that we want to introduce specialized academic programs at our elementary campuses. Now, a couple of examples of specialized programs are what we are doing at Mann Middle School, which is a STEM campus, science, technology, engineering, and math. Another example is what we are doing and have been doing for several years now at Stafford Elementary, which is a leadership-focused campus. That campus happens to be modeled on the House model and the Ron Clark program. Those are just a couple of examples. There are all kinds of specialized academic programs that are available, and we haven't decided exactly which specialized program will go to which campus, but what we know is that parents want choices for the type of education that their kids may encounter. Some of the choices that are out there, and I'm not promising that any of these will be available in our schools, but these are things we're looking at. Things like Montessori education, things like a classical education model, things like a campus for a specific gender, a boys campus or a girls campus, things like a dual language program or a dual language campus. There are lots and lots of specialized academic programs that can be made available to our parents and our students. So we plan to seek more input as we design the specialized programs that we want to implement at our K through 5 campuses during the Building Brighter Futures initiative. And then secondly, and I'm excited about this, we want to give students and parents a choice of schools. Currently, the way we do it in Abilene ISD and the way we've done it in Abilene ISD for a long time is if you live in a certain attendance zone, you are assigned to a elementary campus. And you can apply for a transfer to go to another campus, and that transfer may be accepted and it may be declined. But what we would like to do is open enrollment partially. Right now, we don't feel like we can give every parent in Abilene the choice of any elementary anywhere in town. We think that's too big of a lift. And so we want to have a limited pilot program in 2025, 2026, where parents in a certain area will have a choice between multiple elementary schools. And so we have a plan to initiate that limited pilot school choice program within our district starting next year. And then assuming it goes well and assuming we figure out how to do it effectively and efficiently, we intend to open that up district-wide the following year so that we have a model where all over Abilene, Texas, parents have multiple elementary schools to choose from when it comes to where they want to send their children. And then lastly, and this is the most difficult part of this plan, we would like to recommend through this resolution that I'm asking you to approve tonight, the repurposing of 2 of our elementary campuses. Those elementary campuses are Thomas Elementary and Ortiz Elementary. What I would like to tell you is that they will continue to operate next year, and that's going to be a sunset year. What that means is we would not enroll any new students in either one of those campuses, and we would not send kindergartners or first graders. They would be open to grades 2 through 5. The students in grades 2 through 5 would have the option of leaving Thomas or Ortiz to go to one of the other elementary campuses that they have to choose from, or they would have the option to stay, and that would be completely up to them and their parents. But at the end of next year would be a sunset year, so at the end of next year, after we've done all the lasts, and celebrated those elementary campuses, then we would repurpose those buildings. The buildings will not be abandoned. They will continue to carry the same name, the Thomas name and the Ortiz name, but they will be used for different purposes within the district. The exact use case of each of those buildings has not been determined with finality at this time. There are several district programs that we are looking at to possibly move into those buildings. We have programs that are in much older buildings that could be moved into these buildings because they're newer. The infrastructure, the HVAC systems and things like that are newer in these buildings, and so they would make a good home for several programs, but that has not been decided with finality yet. As far as the students leaving Thomas and Ortiz Elementary, they will have multiple options of which campuses they would go to. So that is a quick overview of the Building Brighter Futures initiative. I would like to take just a minute and read the resolution, and I know we've been here a long time tonight, but I would like to read the resolution to you so you can hear more specifics. Whereas Abilene ISD is a premier public school district serving the Big Country and boasting a legacy of success spanning over a century and impacting thousands of alumni for many generations, making it one of the largest districts in West Texas. Whereas AISD is committed to ensuring continued success, even as the world of education and the world at large change with the passage of time. Whereas student enrollment in Abilene ISD has decreased, particularly since the 2019-2020 school year, due in part to declining birth rates and a historic decline in the school-aged population seen across the nation and across Texas. Whereas the state of Texas has not increased funding for ISDs in many years, despite historic increases in the cost of educating children. Whereas AISD administration and the Board of Trustees acknowledge the important role parents and community partners play in shaping the future of our district. Whereas AISD administrators have worked with members of staff, members of the community, and members of the student body to identify and explore the hopes and dreams stakeholders have for our district. Whereas the district, in collaboration with the school board and community, has created a thorough strategic plan that reflects a shared vision for the future of AISD with the aim of ensuring AISD's role as the premier destination district in our area. Whereas Building Brighter Futures was created with a commitment to AISD's North Star goal of having at least 75% of AISD students in A or B seats by the end of the 28-29 school year. Whereas Building Brighter Futures was created with a commitment to improving AISD's long-term financial stability, whereas high-quality seats for students guarantee academic excellence and vibrant whole child development, and as such, AISD is committed to creating an educational environment that ensures each child has access to high-quality instruction delivered effectively and efficiently across Abilene. Whereas Abilene ISD administrators and trustees have made adjustments to policies and practices and updated curricula and programming with the intention of improving student academic outcomes, and whereas Abilene ISD is in the process of applying for numerous grants through the Texas Education Agency directly related to enacting bold and innovative solutions. Now therefore be it resolved that AISD administration is committed to incorporating community and staff recommendations to increase the availability of high-quality seats for all families. The Building Brighter Futures initiative addresses the equitable distribution of resources across schools and upholds the highest professional standards to provide exemplary learning experiences for all children across Abilene and support the development of the whole child. The administration that shall develop the screen is very small and I can't expand it. The administration shall develop a modified open enrollment system by developing circles of multiple elementary schools. This will allow students and families choice to attend any of the elementary schools in their circle so long as space allows. A pilot will begin in 25-26 with full implementation at all AISD elementaries in 26-27. Let me change my view where I can see it better. Oh, thank you so much. That is so much better. The administration shall identify specialty programs to enact at all AISD elementary campuses This will include creating campuses devoted to science, technology, engineering, and math, leadership development, as well as other areas. Additional community input will be solicited to finalize elementary specialty programs. The administration shall sunset the Thomas and Ortiz elementary campuses in 25-26, allowing only current students who will be in grades 2 through 5 next year to continue attending those campuses during the 25-26 school year, and then repurposing those facilities to serve other district needs in future years. The Thomas and Ortiz names will continue to be attached to those facilities, even as they are redeployed for other ISD purposes. The administration will continue to pursue significant grant opportunities from Texas Education Agency, including strong foundations grants, school action fund grants, with the goal of fostering innovations in the delivery of instruction, lesson design, professional learning communities, the application of technology and instructional delivery, enrollment and transfer practices and policies, and the strategic utilization of resources and facilities. AISD is committed to being a highly responsible steward of taxpayer funds and a highly effective educational organization. The goal of Building Brighter Futures is the creation of a culture of transparency and excellence in teaching and learning, ensuring the future of Abilene ISD as a destination district in the big country. So this is about innovating and redesigning how we do elementary education in Abilene ISD. And this will, in my mind, lead to further conversations about middle schools and high schools so that we continue to adjust as time goes by and we don't stay static doing things the way we've always done them when we need to modernize and change what we're doing. I am happy to answer any questions. I know that was a mouthful, but hit me with your best shot.
I'll say that, I appreciate you and your team and your willingness to identify the issues that our district is facing, willing to give us solutions in a timely manner, and willing to make hard decisions. I love most of this. The Thomas and Ortiz part is a little hard pill to swallow. I had kids at Thomas for 14 years in a row. We had great teachers, great principals. My wife held every PTO position at that school. We've spent hundreds, if not thousands, of hours on that campus. Have a lot of respect for the Sam Thomas family. So the part of me that thinks with my heart, that hurts. But when I think about it with my head, it's the right thing to do. If we, like you said, if we want the same results, then we keep doing what we've always done. But if we want to move this district in a positive direction, we have to make some hard decisions. And so I'm excited about this resolution, and I'm excited about the direction our district's going.
Thank you.
I just want to echo Dr. Tidmore that we've all heard tonight we have a math problem. We have a performance problem, and we can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. We have an achievement gap problem. There was a former person who made the phrase, the soft bigotry of low expectations. We have to do something to change that path. And I think this is a plan that has not been something that has been taken lightly, but it's something that has been deliberate. And hope is not a strategy. We have to do something, and we have to measure the results to get us there. And so, for me, one of the things that's clear is that your zip code should not determine your future in terms of what your academic performance can be. I think this plan provides school choice. Spoiler alert, it is in Texas, and we're going to have it in AISD. And so, for me, I think this is a positive step in the right direction. I think it's a hard step, but I think it's one that's done deliberately, clear-eyed, with a clear plan to make sure that our students are going to get a brighter future. Thank you for your work, and thank you for the work of the administration.
Thank you.
Yes, we did tell you we would have to do some hard things, and that is the reason why we picked you unanimously. And we are appreciating the team you have put together and the motivation you've given them to come to these steps. So, I will say, now, is there a motion regarding the Building Brighter Futures Initiative resolution?
I move to approve the resolution regarding Building Brighter Futures Initiative as presented.
Motion on the floor by Blair Schrader. Do we have a second?
I second.
Taylor Tidmore? We'll now take a roll call vote. Angie Wiley, yes. Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Blair Schrader.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We now need to move, oh, and I do want to say that more to come. Keep your eyes open. Please tune into social media, to our AISD newscasts, and information will be plentiful, and you will want to keep up with it and pass it along to friends and family who are involved in these changes with closing of campuses and Taylor and Ortiz and all of the things that will be involved for them. And it will be something they will need to be well informed on. So please help us pass that along. What did I say? I'm sorry. Correction. Thomas and Ortiz, not Taylor. My mistake. Now let's move on to items covered during closed session. The board will consider approval of personnel recommendations. Is there a motion regarding the personnel recommendations that we covered in closed session?
Move to approve personnel recommendations as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Wheat.
Second.
Bill? We'll now take a roll call vote. Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Motion passes 7-0. We'll now move to items B, student discipline appeal matter. Is there a motion regarding the student discipline appeal matter?
I move to uphold the decision of the administration and affirm the expulsion of the student.
There's a motion on the floor by Taylor Tidmore. Is there a second? By Cindy Earls. We'll now take a roll call vote. Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Rodney Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned and the time is 8:42. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for your attendance.
Okay.
Pass it over.